Hi, I'm Carl Franklin. It's been a while since I rode the rails with y'all, so I'm real happy to be back punching tickets.
Whoa, whoa!
In this episode of Blazor Train, I'm showing off the new features of my Blazor Sliders open source project. Blazor Sliders allows you to split the screen using multiple combinations of vertical and horizontal sliders. I originally showed Blazor Sliders in episode 40, way back in the Nixon administration. Well, since then, there have been some great contributions and suggestions, and a few new features have cropped up. So slide your tray table into its upright locked position because the Blazor Sliders update is happening right here, right now on
Blazor Train!
So as I said, there's a few new features of Blazor Sliders. First and foremost is that it's been upgraded from .NET 6 to .NET 9. We have an MIT license now, and there's 3 new features and a couple more coming. The first one is slider position, where you can set the slider position and then read it as it changes. There's sticky headers, which you can put on a horizontal panel at the top, and the content sticks to the top. Also, the bottom panel, the same thing. And you have full control over the slider content, slider class string. And then there's also a render fragment, a new render fragment called slider content. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, let's look at the code. So I guess let's just run this, and I'll go through all the features that are in the demo, just in case you didn't see episode 40 and you're curious about how this thing works. So here you go. You've got a slider. This is a vertical slider between 2 panels, and you have control over all of this stuff, the width of the slider, the content of the slider. In other words, if you want to change what this is, you can do that. All sorts of things. Okay, so here's horizontal. And in horizontal, we've got some new demos here. A top header that sticks, a slider position. You can see that. That changes when you update the slider. The bottom content and a header. As I said before, that you can stick to the top of these. And then when you slide, that header stays in place. That's a new feature. Here's 4 panels. So a vertical slider, each containing a horizontal slider, and 4 panels of content. You got percent width, which means that you can set the width of a panel to a percentage of the container. So that's kind of cool. This is just the craziest thing I could possibly come up with in terms of multiple panels inside panels inside panels. And you can see it's pretty wacky. Now, doubles. So here's a double vertical, right? So here's the left side has a vertical in it, and the right side has a vertical in it. That's kind of cool. And the same with horizontal, right? This is the main one. And within the 2, you have multiple panels. Now, custom classes means that you can style the panels and the slider and everything. You could have done this before, but now we just have a demo for it. Parent contained is a new one. Some people asked, instead of using an absolute panel that took up the entire screen, can we create a div and make that div the parent of the panels? So yes, we can do that. And that's what this demo is for. This sidebar doesn't live in the adjustable panels. This is a div right here that contains all the panels. So parent contained. Golden ratio is a demo that somebody did, and I don't exactly know what it means, but I'm sure if you look at the code, you'll figure it out. Okay, we're going to use the horizontal panel to show off all of the new features, the slider position, the sticky headers, and the slider content. Okay, so here's the horizontals page. At the outside, you have an absolute panel. And the absolute panel, as I said before, takes up the entire screen. And we can do that because there's also a window raiser that gets updated when the size of the window changes. So that happens automatically. Inside the absolute panel, we can put our nested panels. So here we just have a horizontal slider panel. You can set the height, the slider height, and the initial slider position, which is cool. So this is new. Initial slider position is a parameter. And then you'll see you can read current slider position to get the value as it changes. So that's kind of cool. You saw that changing before, right? So now we have a new render fragment parameter called top header content, which is the sticky header, and bottom header content, which is the sticky header for the bottom. We also have this slider content. So this is if you want to completely override how the slider looks. So go to horizontal again, and now you can see I've got 3 dots in the middle of the slider as a sort of a indicator that, that's a handle. So let's look at parent contained raiser, which is where we have the sidebar that doesn't live in the adjustable panels. This is how you do it. It's actually a property or a parameter on the absolute panel. You say parent contained true. Now you notice we've set the class on the parent panel, the parent div, to panels parent. Let's take a look at that. So if you go into the scope CSS file here, you'll see panels parent has a position, relative, and a width and height that are automatically set. So this is just a demo. You don't have to do that, but that is how we did it in the demo. Okay, so those are the new features in Blazor Sliders. There are some ones in the works. We're disabling the slider if it can't be moved. That's the next one. And if you have any suggestions, just initiate an issue, open an issue in the GitHub repo. And it's good stuff. Go get it. Now back to you in the studio, Carl. So what do you think? If you have comments or suggestions, you can email me at carl@appvnext.com. Hey, thanks for riding the rails with me today. This is where I jump off. I'll see you next time.
Blazor Train.